Hello everyone! Today we are going to visit Shimojang, which is the house of Han Yong-un. In this period, Japanese were the Governor General of Joseon. Nowadays, people prefer houses that head to the south. However, Han built his house headed for the north. Why did he build his house like this? We will be explaining this later on. But to give you a short reason, it was because of Han's determination for Joseon's independence. However, unfortunately, he passed away in 1944, which was a year before our independence. He used this house as a place of residence as well as an institute of thought. Before we examine the inside of this house, let's learn more about it. Han Yong-un's house is located in Sangbuk-do Sangbuk-dong. Taking line 4 of the subway is ideal. When you arrive at Hansong University Station, you will see a bus stop. Then take bus 1111 and you can get to Han Yong-un's house. Other than his house, you can also enjoy the Korean Furniture Museum. Next, I will be explaining about Han Yong-un and what he did. He was a poet. His real name was Jang-ok and his legal name was Yong-un. His most famous and representative poem is Your Silence. This poem largely affected Korean history. Also, he was one of the people who made a declaration of our independence from Japan. He reformed Buddhist and also did educational activities through Buddhism. Let's talk more about his representative poem, Your Silence. He wrote this as a form of resistance against the Japanese, who colonized our country. This poem is about the sadness of letting you go, but still having hope for belief that you will come back. Here, you means our country's independence, so we can notice that he earned for our independence from the Japanese government. If you are worried about getting lost, you don't have to, because there are many signs that indicate the location of his house. You can also just follow the wooden stairs and alleys. Now you will arrive at his house. The entrance is its back door. You can also enjoy observing one of Korea's traditional house structures and Han Yong-un's biography. Have fun!
Hi, my name is Jung Young from Youth Cultural Corporation. I'm going to explain about this house and its owner. Now we're in front of the door of this house called Shimojang. Aren't you curious about this house's name? The name of this house means a house of finding a cow, which means 10 steps of enlightenment in Buddhism. Cow is used to symbolize people's mind. He chose the name Shimu himself, that means finding a cow. The owner of this house, called Han Yong-un, got married during 14 age in 1892. He left his house and went to Seorak Mountain. He visited Siberia and he went to Baekdam Temple to focus more on Buddhism. He got this house for the first time on 55 years old in 1933. He stayed here and interacted with lots of various fighters for independence, cultural artists, men of religion. Finally, he lived at this house until 1944, which was built in 1933. We can notice that the sun is on the back side. It means this house was built on east-northern way. It is very rare to build like it. However, Han Yong-un made the northern direction because there was a Governor General of Korea on south side. So, we can know he was an ardent activist during Japanese colonial era, as Juyeon introduced about him before. This is the house where Han Yong-un, a Buddhist monk, poet, and independence activist, lived from 1933 until his death, as I told you. He was one of the 33 national representatives of the 1919 Declaration of Independence during the Japanese colonial period by 1910 to 1945. He also tried to popularize Buddhism by translating Buddhist texts into vernacular Korean. His poetry expresses Buddhist thoughts and his desire for national independence. So, do you think is his house big or small? When you look at the front of house, there are 4 spaces. And when you look beside, you can see 2 spaces. This tells us this house is a quite small house. Inside of house, men's quarter, women's quarter, and kitchen are located by left to right side. According to Confucian culture of our last dynasty called Joseon, men and women's rooms had to be separated. Kitchen was placed near the women's room because women's main work was to cook and care the clothes. While they managed the houseworks, men usually studied and tried to be successful. Behind the house, there are platforms for crooks of sauces and condiments too.
Let's take a look inside the Shimujang. There is an exhibition space in Shimujang where you can enter. When you walk over to the two-room master bedroom, you will see an ancestor of Mr. Manhei. At the age of 33, he couldn't stand his neck due to a gunshot wound on his neck. At the age of 33. This is a portrait that shows a strong spirit of resistance who longed for independence because of his crooked posture and intense eyes. Poems and newspapers related to Mr. Manhei are displayed in the showcase. Although the Marxist movement has failed, there is a desperate desire to achieve independence in Korea by awakening the people's anti-Japanese spirit through novels. It is preserved as it is. The representative work, My Lord's Silence, is on display. The poem is famous enough to appear in textbooks. My Lord's Silence. My Lord has gone, oh my dear Lord has left. Breaking off azure color of hills, my Lord has walked away. On a tiny trail toward maple woods, hesitantly dragging himself. Age-old earth, firm and gleaming like golden flowers, turned to chaff, and with a breath of sigh, it was blown away. The memory of jolting first kiss has changed the direction of my fate, now has evaporated, walking back away. My eyes and ears were numbed by your sweet words and flowery face. For love is a human affair. About parting, I was neither unwary or without caution. Yet my Lord's departure was sudden, that my frightened heart got burst into sorrow. Even so, for I know letting this parting as a bootless source of tears might by itself blight the spirit of my love. I changed the gear of force in this unbearable sorrow and poured it into the scoop of hope. As we care about parting when we meet, so do we believe in reunion when we part. My Lord has gone, yet I've not sent him. The melody of love tune, unable to overcome its own rhythm, just circles around over my Lord's silence. This poem contains the spirit of resistance and struggle against Japanese imperialism, and is a poem that sang the will and belief in the liberation of the motherland. Poems and writings are displayed in brush letters and calligraphy. Hanroam Night View. 전대보편 compares the preaching of the Buddha, that means the role of the will of a large law, Mane Han-young's writing. This is the Majojowi and Odo song, in which the letters of Mane Han-young were engraved on a tree. The literary feature that can be seen through the frame and calligraphy is the combination of Buddhist and independent thoughts.
This is the way to the kitchen. Between the sarangbang, which is the men's quarters, and the anbang, which is the women's quarters, is a sort of balcony where visitors can sit on and rest. This balcony structure is called maru in Korean. In Korean traditional palaces, we can also see this structure, although it is much bigger. It is a must in most traditional Korean houses. Now we have arrived at the kitchen. As you can see, there are two large flat pots, and underneath those pots, two square-shaped holes can be seen. Fires are made in these holes for cooking, but they have another very important purpose, which is the heating system. The hot smoke from these fires circulate around the entire building and get out through the chimney, which is placed at the back of the house. Remember the balcony I told you about before? It was called a baru, which means a large wooden floored area in Korean. This is also a type of baru. However, since it is located behind the kitchen, it serves a different purpose. Women used to prepare small tables for all the prepared food here, since people used to eat at separate small tables back then in Joseon, unlike nowadays. Let's take a closer look at the chimney. The heating system I mentioned earlier is called ondol, which literally translates to warm stone, which is exactly what it says, heat traveling through a large flat stone placed underneath the building. Although the chimney is very small, it still serves its purposes. You probably haven't noticed this. It is a very useful tool which is used to collect rainwater and spill it onto the front yard. We have now finished the tour of Sir Han Yong-un's house. It is a very small and humble building, but strangely I felt a strong sense of sadness. Could it be due to the fact that Han passed away without seeing his country's independence? Shimujang was not only a place of residence for Mr. Han Yong-un, but also a place that holds deep historical meaning. This year, 2020, is the 75th anniversary of Korea's full independence from Japanese colonization. And I hope the people of Korea, as well as the rest of the world, will remember this day and time forever. We hope you had a great time this tour at Shimujang, and if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask after this tour. Thank you.